We're here to remember the faithfulness of God and time, to pay tribute to Charlotte Snelly's life and Mike Lowry's life. They paid the ultimate price, and we pay tribute and honor them and their family. Snelly's are here today. We thank you for being here and appreciate so much your presence. And I'd like to reconnect for the future, to come together more than just for a gathering and a chat and for a little tea and lemonade, but to think about what God can do in the future. We just want to say thank you for coming, not only from around the country, but from coming from all the way around the world. Tara Tomiyasu, here from Tokyo.
Okay, this is an awesome group. And it's cracking me up that everybody's like, what is your name? Because we can't remember. It's been 30 years, and it hasn't been 30 years. Because we're like 32, 28. Debbie decided this morning to say, let's don't say 30. Okay.
And I mean, we can even start with George and Cindy Lowry.
Yeah, let's start.
Mainly because they're talking in the back. They used to get on to us for talking in the back. It's a joy to be with you guys today, and just the heritage that you gave us all, and learning about leadership and love for Christ and all of that. We're really grateful for you guys to be here. It means a lot.
Let's just introduce somebody. I'd like to introduce the Smellies. How about that? Okay, so I'm sorry, but you have to stand up. Stand up if you're a Smelly or related to the Smellies. Up. So what I'd like to do is totally go off of our thing, which will make Dave crazy, and his wife knows that. But I'm just going to say this right now. You've not met more amazing people than Charlotte Smelly's family. And they came to be very close to me. And I mean, God moved us close by to them, and it was a wonderful thing. And how about Chuck and Gail Perry? Anybody remember them? Please stand up if you can. Just kidding. Oh, and Sean Shannon, we remember her.
And so, but I wanted to, we're kind of enjoying the past and of course the present. But as you can notice, there are several students here that are current students at Baylor. Aiding us in this day, they're current BSM students. You know, we used to call it BSU. But y'all are BSM now, and Baptist Student Ministries. I really appreciate the way that they have stepped up and have served us with all kinds of things today, as y'all have noticed. Also, Charlie Ramsey is the new BSM director. Stand up, Charlie. If you haven't gotten a chance to meet him, it's very worth your time. He'll say a few words a little bit later.
So glad that y'all are here today. So we just wanted to do a couple of songs that we heard y'all sing back in the day. These are awesome. We love them too. So y'all please feel free to stand, sit, whatever you want to do, and sing along with us.
Hi, Adrian.
Hey, how's it going, Debbie?
Oh, good. I haven't seen you since the holidays.
Yeah, I know, I went home. Listen, I just got back from Richland Mall.
I'm kind of hogging the microphone again.
It's okay. I just bought the new Amy Grant, Michael W. Smith album. Yeah. They only have like 3 cassette tapes left.
Well, you know what? We can get in my car and listen in a little while. And I love El Shaddai. Remember Another Tender Tennessee Christmas?
Yeah, wait
stayed up all night at the Summer Missions Volleyball Marathon.
Oh my gosh,
Exhausted.
I know.
It felt like angels were watching over me.
You are the most sickening Amy Grant fan.
I love her. I love her. Now, okay, what are you doing spring break?
Isn't there, I think there's a Sandy Patty concert, like,
No.
right?
No, we don't have time for that. I want you to go on the mission trip. Have you heard about the BSU mission trip?
Oh,
Okay, there's
where are we
60
going? Where are we going?
Down south, it's near Harlingen. I think I heard we're going to some towns. What are they called? Monte Alto, La Paloma, El Buen Pastor, Sarah, something like that. Anyway, it's going to be a blast. 60 people have signed up, and
Oh,
we're gonna
wait.
do construction work.
Yeah,
Backyard
hold on.
clubs. They were talking about it at Serendipity.
Oh, you mean Nooners? Okay.
They said it there too.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, is there gonna be electricity there? Because, like, I need my curlers. I need to have
Maybe one plug, because I heard there's 2 stalls for showers, and it's a dorm. It's only $90 though. I know you can handle
I
it.
better ask my parents. Okay, wait. Is this the same trip that Charlotte told me I had to go on?
Yes. She's
Yeah.
getting mad at you if you don't go.
Yeah, it's the one she's been planning, like, for a really long time. She's been planning this
Listen,
trip.
where's our friend Dave?
I don't know, you mean, oh, Dave, hey, hey, listen, you have to go on this trip.
I like your hair, that beautiful hair.
I know you heard us talking about that spring break mission trip.
Mike, good to see you, man. What's up, oh, man? See you in a while.
Come on, Dave.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Listen, we want you to go with us.
You need to be on this trip.
It's at the Cone Oasis Baptist Encampment. Don't miss it.
Chris, I haven't seen.
All right.
Mission trip? What? Mission trip?
Yeah, so listen, there are things that you can do there. Like
Construction.
Yeah.
Oh,
Backyard
I'm good with the hammer, yeah.
Yeah, Ben Hannah is.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah, you could probably ride with him.
Man, taking a ride? Maybe, Gladson.
Check with him and see if you can ride with
Gladson
him.
Trump. Gladson's kind of a wild man, though. I don't know if I can ride with him.
Yeah,
He's so
our
wild on the
Gladson.
roads.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Music
I would
he
go
plays.
with
Mike
Mark.
McGuff. Get ride with him.
Oh, maybe so.
Yeah.
Listen, all I know is it's going to be an unforgettable experience. Harold Clark really set the tone about 39 minutes into the video, and he preached in one of the worship services. He said, no matter how bad things get, he will always be there for us. We had no idea how prophetic that was. Nevertheless, we leaned into the presence of God as we worked side by side in the trenches, so to speak, brick tossing, ditch digging, wiping little noses, and we basically served till we dropped. One night, Ben Hannah posed this question to himself and to us all: how can I know God better? How can I love God better? It seemed that we leaned into loving God by loving those He placed in front of us that week. The local community, each other. Daniel Gill, remember him? He reminded us of some hard lessons that were on that trip that we were learning, that much of our work lacked immediate results, and it didn't meet many of our expectations. Yet we learned to press on and do the work to the glory of God. Because of this humble work we engaged in and were called into, we were convicted of pride and saw that it was about God's glory and timing rather than about our glory and timing. As in Isaiah 49, we began to learn that in seemingly vain service, the Lord becomes our strength. There was fruit too. 8 little lives were forever changed. 8 little girls knelt and prayed to receive salvation that Jesus offered them. One of our team members, you'll see the testimony if you weed through the 8 hours, but she led the little girls to the foot of the cross and prayed to them after loving them all week and being the hands and feet of Christ. Of course, we were all deeply impacted by the tragedy at the end of such an amazing missional week. The wreck the loss of our dear friends, Mike and Charlotte. This is something we've carried with us in healthy ways and sometimes unhealthy ways. We continue to learn to lean into the Lord as our strength. Sean shared with us that one of the things Charlotte wrote in her journal on the last day of the trip was Psalm 90:12. Teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Charlotte was all about making the most of her days. She challenged us to do the same. In a few moments, we'll watch this compilation video, and we'll again have the opportunity to hear Charlotte in her own words as Christ himself, through our friend, blesses us in what was to be one of her last days. We remember together and recount the faithfulness of the Lord in the past by telling this story and stories that have happened since. We also celebrate the goodness of this day. We have shown by our presence here and the joy that fills the stream that we are all still on mission, serving Christ and longing to be together. Let's also look to the future in faith that the author and perfecter of our faith will be present with us and will guide us and his church into mission, service, and fellowship. Thanks be to God, and to him be the glory.
Let me just start by saying, never, ever, ever did we want today to be making light of any loss that we experienced or any hard times. And even stuff that didn't have to do with this in particular event or week. We've all had a lot of things, in the 30 years that it's been really 30 years. It's been a wonderful experience being back in touch with y'all. Even the people I don't remember. It was fun to be excited with you. And I will say this, not to pull on your heartstrings, my other family, the Smellies, I'm gonna take this off, it's bothering me. But I have not felt more close to the memories, the great memories, the really meaningful memories of my time with Charlotte Smelly since I've been doing this. And I will say that I didn't really know Mike all that well. Bobby, did y'all all get to see Bobby Olson? Where'd you go, Bobby? There you go. Okay, so Bobby, Charlotte, Mike and I were in the return car, and actually going up, one of the guys weren't in that car because George was with us. So I'm just going to go ahead and say this. It's not really probably what Charlotte would want me to share, but I'm going to share it anyway, and she can get me when we get to heaven. Okay, so at the BSU, you used to, if you were on this thing called executive council, we were important, okay? I'm kidding, we were not important. But we headed up whatever ministry it was, and so I did senior adult ministry because someone said, hey, why don't you do that? Which put me, probably because we figured out yesterday because Sean said to do it, Sean said to do it, so Charlotte took in students into her office to do like mentoring, and some of you may have had that time with Charlotte, and some of y'all may have had it with somebody else, and you remember that. But Charlotte just discipled me and mentored me, and we talked a little bit about senior adult ministry, but not very much. And she said this to me, and so I'm sorry for everyone else who was on the trip and not in that car, but she said, you have to ride in my car because I don't think I can stand some of these people for that long, long drive. They will make me crazy. And so back in the day, I didn't talk as much as I do now. And so it was going to happen. I was going to ride with her. And so, just having known her and the little funny things were just so, so special. But as we were planning this time to be together, and by the way, I know some of you showed up just so I would quit sending you email, so now we're done. Mike, the guy that never responded to anything, but he showed up today. Thank God for all of you who have wives who are on Facebook, because that helped a lot to find you. But seriously, God has revealed a few things to me. It has been a complete joy to find people and be back and forth with some people that I knew even a little bit better, like Kim Cook who goes by John Kim Cook now. But even as he works for the government, he was like, "Can I help you find anybody?" Wink, wink. And I was like, "Are you kidding? That's hysterical." Also, he said he would be on shutdown a couple of weekends ago. We could look through his pictures. And I'm like, "Thank you for the government shutdown." But anyway, it has just really been a real joy and to reconnect with people and a lot of people who, if you look at the little board, we're not able to be here. I mean, obviously, the people we have serving somewhere in Asia were not able to be here, and some other people in odds and ends around also were just, so they're here with us in spirit. But I just want to say that as we've been sharing and talking, just a few of us together, I never wanted it to be like, "Hey, why don't you all come together for me?" It wasn't that. Debbie and I got together because my middle son is a senior here at Baylor, and he's like, "You have to keep introducing me." But my family's been great to walk with me through this, and they too, like some of you, have told your kids these stories. You know, since they were little, I was involved in BSU, and I was so cool, and la 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 la. But we were on this trip, and it's like trying to put that together and figure it out. So I'm really still trying to figure that out. But something occurred to me because Karen Holder, she's Karen Williamson now, came in from Virginia yesterday, and Debbie and I, the three of us just sat around talking, and for the first time ever, it kind of occurred to me, of course, I knew that you guys had been through a lot of things that you had seen, and I hadn't seen those things and don't have those in my memory. But God can use anything. Okay, that's the little preschooler nugget here. That God can use video footage from a 1920s camcorder. I mean, if the BSU bought that for how to use, God bless you, let's buy him a new one, okay? Because that is the oldest, terrible quality footage, but how it blessed us. And people started messaging me like crazy. "Oh my gosh, this is amazing." So, and God can use Debbie not having really great tech skills to put it online. I mean, seriously, y'all, she just did that, boom. I mean, even just finding everyone, God used Facebook. You know, that's really not always that great, but it turned out that that's how I got in touch with Hal and was able to get your names, and I bugged you and bugged you and bugged you, and your wives, guys, probably your wives were like, "Please answer this woman." But I just want to say that we had some amazing leaders, and some of them are still here with us, and they impacted our lives greatly. God was able to show me, even through the conversation that I had yesterday with Karen and with Debbie, that if I can give you a little tiny gift back, because you certainly have given me gifts in lots of ways, it's to remember what Charlotte and Mike and the Lord will want us to remember. Don't let the joy of the week. Now, I'm not talking about like kicker dancing and all the things that, you know, were like extra things. But I mean like really the joy of serving the Lord. A million memories, and we all have so many different memories. Just don't let that be stolen away, is what I would say. And I prayed for you to not have those images in your mind, but thank you for praying for us immediately and just being there. And so it has been super fun to see you all in this place. I've had this dream a million times that you're all in this spot. We've all had conversations like in the past several months in my dreams, in my head, we're talking. So makes today kind of come together more. But I really encourage you to not be afraid to read someone's name tag to see who they are. Because they might have been like the person who was your great friend or on your team or doing stuff with you. I mean, y'all, I've had more people confidentially say, "I don't remember anyone though, but I really want to come, but that's going to be so awkward." And so we also have like Scotty, not Scott. Scott's too grown up. Scotty Lyons came from Montana, and we have the Perrys here from Oregon, and if you're from Virginia, will you just stand up? Because it's a bunch of y'all, okay? Thank you. Okay, next time we're going to have, if we ever get together again, it'll probably be in Virginia.
Oh, Jesus Christ, my King, what a beautiful name it is. Nothing compares to this. What a beautiful name it is, the name of Jesus.
Humbled and honored to be in front of you today. I'm Charlie Ramsey. I am the new director of Baptist Student Ministries. I think you've caught on. BSU is now BSM. And I was thinking, what has changed? And as I was watching the videos and I was thinking, everything.
Duh.
And then as I was going, well, nothing. Because our Lord hasn't changed. His word has not changed. His commands for us haven't changed.
Amen.
And, but as I start spending time with our students here, I'm going to tear up. I'm just one of those guys. So, the spirit by which you worked and that we see in the video, and as I spent time with Debbie, Dave, and Adrian, that has not changed. And it's so encouraging to have been welcomed here this year and brought in. And I want to begin just by thanking a few people that made this day happen. Of course, we would clap for our organizers today. I think that's very appropriate. Debbie, Dave, Adrian, you have done so much. And we know you'll get lots of hugs when it's over, and amazing to watch. And again, that just spoke of the impact that had on their lives and how meaningful this has been for all of those who came through these doors. And George Lauderback, what a privilege to meet you today. Wow, please. I would also like to thank Kayla and her team and our worship team that are here. Amazing, all the energy, attention to detail, the planning. George, I think that some of the training and organizing skills that you implanted into the DNA have remained in the building. I wish they came from me, but she got that from somewhere else. So what has changed? Well, you might know that in the great configurations of Baylor, things got integrated about a decade ago. And one other person I want to thank, and I want to thank him for his wisdom in helping bring this step, is our chaplain, Bert Burleson. He came here earlier, was greeting people. He's at a different meeting now. But he and Bruce McGowan and Joyce and others realized the importance and the need of pulling BSM back out from within the larger spiritual life program and reinstating it and kind of giving it a new mandate. And I want you to know that on my first day on the job, two things happened. The first was we prayer walked the campus. I just put words out there, who wants to come? And it was so fun to walk with other faculty members, students that I was just meeting, just prayer walking, saying, God, what do you want to do here? The second thing, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this on a microphone or not, is I sat down with Dr. Linda Livingston and a handful of other of our leaders, and they said, we need intentional discipleship at Baylor University. Can you help us get there? And so, man, what a joy it has been. And Bert and his team and others have been incredible for me, just opening up pathways. I'm a new guy here. When I was at Baylor, 93 to 97, and then 97 to 2000, I didn't darken the doors here, guys. I was at the keg parties and on the rugby team, and it wasn't my thing. I was the Harley driving nose pierce guy. It wasn't for me. It wasn't until my end days at Baylor that I came to Christ and was at Mission Waco. But that's where my story connects with some of you. Does anyone know the name Paul Maston, by the way? Wasn't on the trip, but 1988, very active here. My first discipler. I moved in on 14th Street underneath Paul and Kelly. He was doing his doctorate here at Church and State. Got to watch what it looks like to be a married man of God living in the hood. I mean, we were on 14th Street, and we looked different. But man, we had great neighbors, and what a joy. And it wasn't but a couple years later, in 2000, when we left, Brooke and I, my wife, we left and we went to North India on our way to Pakistan, and we were hosted by none other than Harold Clark. So your legacy lives on, and so we stand on your shoulders. We stand on their shoulders. And Harold's been one of my closest friends and a mentor for me for 20 years. I give you his greetings, and I want to pass on your greetings to him. He is the dean of a seminary in Pakistan, by the way, with students from, of course, Pakistan, Muslim, who come to Christ, and Christians as well, and also students from China, from Iran, from Afghanistan. It's a pretty exciting place to teach the Bible. And so remember Harold in your prayer. He's such a joy. I bet if we sat down, we could think of other people that we know. But honestly, today is not about me. It's about what this BSM is going to become. And I want you to know that's my heart for BSM, is that it really be a student-led organization. And the same energy and excellence by which Kayla and her team put this together is how we want to see things grow. Now, there would be a lot more people here today, but one of the things about BSM is you're dynamic people. We got people right now at the Go Now Missions Conference in Midlothian. We got other people who are at D-Nows here in other cities. We got people out there doing stuff. And so that's something that maybe hasn't changed from your days here. We want to find ways to help instill a heart and a passion for Jesus at Baylor. We know that there's great people, great organizations here, and I feel like what we've been asked to do is to be kind of a multiplier. How can we help bring people of faith together and make a difference on our campus? I'd love to talk to you more about that. Let's get to know each other. One of the things that we would like to see happen is to make this not a once every 30 years gathering. 30 years from now, you know, I don't want to know what you're going to look like. So how about homecoming? How about homecoming? We'll have a party here for you guys. You come, bring your friends, let's get the word out, let's stay in touch. We're going to have probably a booth or something here at the Bobo, maybe a breakfast. Got all kinds of ideas. We would love for today to be a time where we are kind of forming the BSM alumni group. We are now a student chartered organization, and like so many other chartered organizations, we can have an alumni group. We'd love for you to help us and invest in this next generation. You've got wisdom to share, you've got guidance for them, you've got connections. They would love to spend time with you. So I want you to know that we're here to say welcome. We would welcome your input. We would welcome you to visit. My office is right through those glass doors. And this is year one of this reorg. We welcome you to help us make it all it can be. And I had a second announcement too. Oh, second, I guess maybe because of where I've lived the past 20 years, of lessons that I've learned probably the hard way, we have just learned that prayer is not something you do later. It's where you begin the work, where you sustain the work, and it is the work. We're serious about this. We would like to invite you to get connected with us, to join our Facebook page where we can show you what's going on, to join we have a website that after our weekly prayer and intercession times, we try to track things that we're doing, things that we're praying. You can be involved in that. I'd love to tell you more about that. So the two assignments that I have for you is, one, be sure we have your information as you leave. Second, go ahead and like the Facebook page while you're sitting here. Okay? That way you don't forget. I'm going to tie it off here, and how else? Anything that I'm missing at this point before I hand it back over? Okay, over to Dave. Thank you so much.
It's great to meet you and be here. I'm going to try to do this without crying, but if I need to, I need some tissue. There's some more tissue over here. It's been that kind of day. I'm going to share a little bit. Adrian's going to wrap and read the letter from the Lowry family, and we're going to do some share time stuff. But what a joy. Gosh, there are no words. It's surreal. This is really like a taste of heaven, just being here, seeing you now before we move ahead. And just thank you so much, Debbie and Adrian, for allowing me to share and serve. And thank you to their husbands, Jeff and Darren. Guys, raise your hands. We thank you for giving us and letting your wives, don't letting your wives time. more than just celebrating what God did and more than just honoring Charlotte and Mike, which we're clearly here wanting to do, we really have been praying in earnest. God, what are you calling us to do? What is this about? And there has been a sense, even last night as we had dinner, that there's a calling amidst. There's a stirring. The Holy Spirit's doing something here. It's like we didn't all show up on accident. We said, oh, hey, nice to see you. It's like God brought us here. I mean, something in us, something deep, and something to our core said, you need to be at this event. And I know that's certainly been the case for me. I asked the Lord this week as we've been praying, Lord, if there's one word you'd give us together, what would it be? And that one word the Lord told me was this, that the word is to dream. In Psalm 126, it said that when the Lord brought back the captive ones of Zion, we were like those who dream. You know, imagine exile coming back, right? Let me read that again. When the Lord brought back captive ones of Zion, we were like those who dream. I want us to dream together today, to dream about a future together, to dream about relationships together. We have a lot of catching up to do. Robert sent out a 30-year update last night. Really did a concise job. You should write for those Reader's Digest condensed version things, because it really catches me up. His wife literally grew up in the same town. We spent 10 years in rural Arizona, which is crazy. But we want to get to know you better. We want to spend some time in the coming months talking and sharing. Let's catch up. Let's find out what happened the last few years. Your kids, your family. We are a family. We want to create a family environment just to connect together and pray together and serve together. To dream about spiritual growth together. To dream about impacting the world for Christ together once again. In 1988, I was just a freshman. This is the part I remember. I was a nerdy freshman. I don't remember what it was like to be that skinny, to be honest. I look at my pictures and who is that guy? I had my daughter broke accused me one day of having floppy arms, and I looked at the video and go, I hate it, she's right. Those arms are so floppy arms. They're good for lawnmower. They're good for lawnmower starting though. That's a good thing. But what this trip meant to me was the world, because when I came into Baylor as a nerdy freshman, I grew up in Reno, Nevada. And Reno, Nevada, it was a tough environment to grow up in. High school nights were lonely. It was either go out with a troubling crowd or stay home by myself as a 16, 17, 18-year-old. So many nights I stayed home by myself and was alone, quietly. I had my parents at a time in my life when there was trouble with my home. My parents were living married 50 years, God love them, but they were going through one of their most difficult seasons, 50 years together. And I had a church that loved to fight much more than they loved to disciple people. And we had drama at church. It's crazy. So it was a lonely upbringing and a lot of lonely, quiet years. So I came to this group called Baylor. George told me he started Welcome Week. It was like nothing I'd ever experienced. When I met you and Adrian invites me to go hang out with the student ministry and the old people, which I tend to gravitate toward, the nursing home, and then hey, there's this mission trip. And I'm like, this was like a kid in awe of a future that I've never experienced. And when you guys came together and we shared love together and prayer together and vulnerable relationship together, it was really the first true community that I ever experienced in my entire life. And God spurred me on in that mission trip and that mission experience to actually move down the road a little later to be in a career in missions. And so I want to thank you for being a part and a stakeholder in my life and in that trip and just being a part of it. It just it really brings me to tears. Joy, fulfillment, vulnerable relationships, being honest with each other. That's what's healthy. That's what Jesus wants us to do, right? To be safe together, to share life, to share burdens, to be that family. And you guys really modeled that for me, demonstrated that, and it really was that for us together. It's great to meet Charlie. I want us to pray for Charlie, support Charlie. Charlie, we're here for you. We want to be here for you, brother. It's been since the late 90s. They've really had a strong missions emphasis at Baylor, and this is our chance to come together. And now that we've spread literally around the world, and say, hey, we're not just this little family. We're not just this Waco group with a Waco phone. I got to see my Waco phone number for the first time in 30 years back at Martin Hall. And I'm like, what the heck? But no, we're not those little kids. We're not those starving kids eating ramen noodles. How many of you had ramen noodles last night? Well, maybe Adrian did. I haven't eaten ramen noodles in years. We're not those little those kids, and we're grown-ups. And we have, as Charlie says, grown-ups, alumni run the world. So we're in a little different place. Thank you, Lord. Jesus says, you are the light of the world. And family, you have been that light. Now, shining light in Pakistan, shining light that Karen is in Thailand, and we've got folks in Tokyo, and we're in Arizona, and we've got people in Virginia. And it's just a joy to see this group spread out. So let's come together and dream together. Let's encourage one another. Maybe you've been blessed by the church. Maybe you had a good church experience. I'm a pastor, but I know churches can be rough places sometimes. Maybe you've been banged up by the church, Like, we're your family, we're here for you. We want to be minister, comfort, and peace to you. And with the church, and maybe in spite of the church, what the church has been for you. We want to pray together for one another as we dream together. Pray for one another's ministries of service. Pray together as we raise up kids. We can support one another, encourage one another. The Lord, as I prayed about this, I really feel like the Lord's saying this about Baylor and coming back together with BSM, to encourage students to make missions a priority, right? Help students know you can make missions a priority. You can change the world. You can make a difference. And I think one of the ways we prepare students is by encouraging them to serve in every corner of the world where we now live. And so you live in Virginia, you live in Oregon, you live in Tokyo. Guess what? There's students here at Baylor that are like, I want a place to serve. I want a place to go. Where do we go? Met with some students Friday here and invited them to come out and see spring training with us here in Surprise in Arizona. And they're like, well, I just want to get out. I want to spread my wings. And there's something about that just captivated them. So I want to encourage you, wherever you are, let's look at this as an opportunity. God gave us an opportunity. And by Charlotte and Mike and their sacrifice, it cemented us in relationship together, not only in this life, but life to come. And God in sovereignty knew that. Somehow He knew 30 years ago. Somehow, isn't that crazy about God? 30 years ago, He knew that we were going to be sitting right here today, 30 years later, and we're going to be reconnecting, and we're going to be talking about missions in a way maybe that's not been talked about in a while. And I just want to plead and prayerfully encourage you, come together and let's join in the mission of God to reach the world for Christ and to make a difference. And then you're right, some of my notes, I hard to read. I'm sorry about that. You're right. I'm writing here. One of our dreams is to build some type of memorial. It was brought up about a year ago. Hey, let's do a memorial. And what we prayed about is, that's a great idea, not just to the two of them, but to the trip and the impact God made. But we decided we really wanted to get together first and connect and reconnect first. Pray together, work together. We didn't want to hit you. Hey, we haven't seen you in 30 years, but here, get out your checkbook. That doesn't really make much sense. But we do want to pay tribute to those lives and pay tribute to this trip. So maybe people, be praying about how we can support that. I've been talking to my church planners last month about Acts 14. You remember the picture. It's pretty compelling. I'll wrap things up over here, but we keep saying we're going to wrap it up here. I don't know that we're going to wrap it up. We're just starting this up, but it's Acts 14. Paul has just gone to the lights for a done a miracle. I remember that story. And then out of thanks, they took him out, stoned him, and drug him out half dead out of town. Remember that story? So you can imagine the moment, here Paul and Barnabas, some of the early disciples kind of hanging around, kind of nudging Paul, wondering if he's going to wake up. Barnabas wondering, hey, is this trip over, this first missionary trip over or not? And somehow by God's grace, Paul, he got up, right? He shook off the dust and didn't leave town, which is kind of curious. He decides to go back into town. And literally, forgive the language, but hell no, I'm not going to leave town because of you guys. I'm going back into town because I want to make eye contact with my enemies. I want to let them know I'm still here. And I'm still moving ahead. And he wanted to tell his community that he still loved them and cared about it. And he wanted to show Jesus that his love for Christ and his love for Jesus was more important than any personal comfort that he could possibly experience. And so, what he did? He just, I'm going back to town and I'm going to leave on my own terms. And then he was able to leave. And that just to me is this question of, can we take a plunge? Christ took a plunge. The Bible says the same Spirit in Christ which raised him from the dead is in us who believe, who trust, and who know. And so let's believe and let's trust. God's doing something. We don't know what He's doing, but we believe by faith. God's Spirit works through faith. Right? He's doing something special, and He can use us, and He can shape us, and He can change us for the future. Some of those testimonies, Hannah, you probably don't know that, but we talked about at dinner time. When you talked about God wants mercy, not sacrifice, that testimony echoed into the years beyond for us. We reflected on that for years about that. Who knows? What if we take another trip together? What if we decide to get back together every year or two, go to these places, maybe first in the country and then visit Asia? Who knows? What if we can come back together and see places, dark places of this world that are coming to Christ because of this group? So we're going to dream, and I do want to pray as we dream. Let's dream big for Jesus. Let's just not, if we're going to come together and do this, God give us confirmation. If we're going to come together and do this, let's do this well. Let's honor God. Let's honor Charlotte and Mike and their memory. Let's honor the staff. Again, thank you, staff, for so much, not only student staff, but also Sean and Hal group for investing in us, for taking a chance on us little rogue teenagers and crazy ones that we were. And just pray, and then we'll have come. Lord, we don't know what to say, God. Words don't really do it. But somehow, in some way, you brought us together, and you brought us together as really a true community where there's joy and belonging and vulnerable sharing and confession time and brokenness. But God, we know your word says that you love to make things new. You love to restore. In fact, you get great, great glory restoring, making things new and reviving things. Jesus, you said you are the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in you will never die. And it's that same resurrection spirit we come with your power and your presence today and say, we will not let this die. We will not let this shrink back, but we are those who believe and press forward. So God, give us the wisdom, give us the help. There's other here that want to have gifts and helps. They can help with the network. We have others here that would want to stand up maybe and lead in the leadership and say, I want to be part of the leadership team. But Holy Spirit, you drive that. God, you work that out for your glory and for your name's sake. We just want to cast vision and wait upon you to build your house. Unless the Lord build a house, the builder builds in vain. But those who build in you, Christ, build up where there is no end to the good and the joy and impact that can be made. And so, Father, we just pray, thank you, Jesus, for your sacrifice. Thank you for the lives, Mike and Charlotte, the sacrifice and the way they cemented our relationship together, even in tears, because of what happened that day. And even up in heaven, somehow getting the word through angels or whatever that we're meeting today. We honor them, we thank you for them, and we just pray your wisdom, your peace, your strength. We've been praying earnestly for travels here. We pray as people head back even later this afternoon and this evening. You get people home safely. But keep us connected. Keep this going. Let this not end here, but let us move forward in your grace and in your love. In Jesus' name, amen.
So Adrian's going to read this letter from Mr. Lowry, and then we'll take maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, if anybody has anything they want to share. I mean, some of you are just coming today and we'll wave and you'll head out, and that's great. We wanted to see you and hug you. And some people may have been inspired and want to connect and do something more from here, and wherever you are is great. But if you wanted to, one thing we did want to hear from you is maybe how BSM or BSU impacted your life back in the day, or something you wanted to say about the mission trip. And we know we've been hogging the microphone. We want to let you have it in a sec. You want to read that?
I will, and just as I read this, want to just make sure that maybe start thinking if you would like to share for a few moments. Not that it's all about us, but we also want people to not be angry that they're here for hours and hours. So we'll let them share as well. And I know Tomiyasu had asked me in advance, a couple other people did, and we're actually going to have a real treat that if you're still willing, Chuck and JJ are going to lead us in our final song after we're done. But Kim Anderson just brought us back to 2018 by saying, thank you. Oh my goodness, we have to have a picture of the participants back together again. So I know some of you may need to sneak off, and I know your family's like, So really, there are things to eat and do and all, but make sure that you stay for a quick picture, okay? Right? Okay. Mr. and Miss Lowry, we were able to locate them. They now live in Mobile, Alabama. And Mr. Lowry is precious. I don't want to embarrass y'all, but like 80s something, right? Okay, so our parents are 80s something, and he doesn't really email really well. So I try to get this letter for him. So I'll go through. He's a precious man, and he wanted you to know that they're so thrilled for us to get together, and I'll try to read through this. Dear Adrian and each of the reunion group. Adrian first contacted me sometime in September, sharing her desire to initiate this plan of our reunion. With the help of several peers, they through many hours searching the internet were able to connect with many whom were a part of the team, and now the time is here. I'm so sorry that Margaret, that's his wife, and I will not be able to welcome you and thank each of you personally for the outpouring of your love and support following Michael and Charlotte's death. You all were a group in God's army, serving him in various ways for that week. Then he said, the mission's over, come home my warriors. A sad and heartbreaking day for Don and Shirley Smelly family, the Don and Shirley Smelly family, as well as ours. But know this, God's grace can carry us over obstacles we never dreamed we could scale. To your classmates now serving the Lord on mission fields, your local church and community, keep the faith burning brightly in a world of darkness and sin. May you feel our hugs of joy and love as you celebrate this weekend. Daryl and Margaret Lowry.
Hello, my name is Tomiyasu. Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here, and I am very happy I can speak English in front of all of you because I don't have any chance to speak in English in front of others in Tokyo. And this is will be the maybe very first for the last 20 or more years I speak in English. So if I made any mistake in language, just retranslate brain into correct words or phrases or something. Maybe you can understand, I hope. And when I found Adrian at the church on the memorial ceremony there, I was so happy. I was so happy. I was so, and Bobby was there also. He wore sunglasses. Yes. And I was so happy. And that was the very last time I met Adrian. And for this reunion, she got me a message. She found me on the Facebook listing, and I don't use Facebook.
Because he looks exactly the same.
Every time I come to the crossroad or corner of my life, every time I face some difficult situations, or every time I have some trouble with others that happens in our life, I always remember Sean's attitude toward us. Not only Sean, but also George Rutherford, Chuck Berry, and Hal Eason, and Shola. At the same age or generation, like 30s or early 40s, like our leaders at BSU, I finally found that they must have a very hard time for our experience. That means they never showed us any weak attitude. I mean, now I can understand. They should have. They must have. They wanted to cry like us. They wanted to weep like us. We were very young, but they were young also.
Yes.
From my viewpoint, now I understand. That's what so I really wanted to really thanks to especially George and Chuck and Sean, Shola, and Howard Eason, and I'm not sure, and I can be such a good leader, but having taking a good leadership, maybe these leaders would be the best role model for me for my lifetime. Thank you very much.
Not all 8 hours of video, I fast forwarded a lot. But as I was watching, I thought, man, I was really a lightweight back then, kind of, as far as just those kids with blonde hair running around and stuff like that. Wasn't saying much anything like that at all. But what I wanted to share with you guys was, I guess for me, and I just shared this with Smelly, they didn't realize this, but in the car accident, because of my concussion, it knocked me out, and I woke up the next day in the hospital. I don't remember a thing about the wreck. So in a way, my experience is different from everybody else that was on the trip, because you guys saw things and remember things. If I saw them, it's somewhere in the back of my brain that I don't know. So in a way, my experience is a little bit different from you guys. But what I would share with you guys is that I have a place in my heart for each of you guys. And although we have not, obviously spent a lot of time together in the past years, that when you get a chance to minister, to share, to go on mission with somebody, to do something for God together, I think it draws our hearts together. It's our hearts together in a different way than ever just friends with somebody or something like that. And so whenever I've thought about this trip or thought about you guys, that's always been in my heart. And even in thinking about Mike and Charlotte, when I woke up in the hospital and my parents shared with me that they passed away, the thought I had was, well, for some reason, God is pleased with what they have done, and their course on life is over. You know, for some reason, He decided that. I don't know why, but for me, He has a reason for me to move on, and something for me to do. I don't know, may not have figured that out quite yet, but you know, for each of us, I think that although we might not have a physical monument to honor them, I think each of our lives, in a way, what God has done in our lives, how He's used us, is a monument to them in a way. And so I just encourage everybody in that you know, that He is still using us right now, I believe. And so we're carrying forward with that. And in that experience, you know, I shared with George just that I've had a chance to go on a lot of mission trips, and this, you know, was not the first mission trip I've been on, but the fact of how God used that time in my life and also used me has really spurred me to go forward and to keep on going and have a heart for that. But I just wanted to share that with you guys. I appreciate everybody being here. I really appreciate the folks that set things up and that we give you together. It's great to see all your faces. I haven't had a chance to say hi to everybody yet, but I want to. And so, yeah, so that's for me. Great.
Very much. I wanted to come up and say a little bit in behalf of my family. We're so grateful and humbled that y'all invited us to be a part of this with y'all today. I know that for us, our story is a little bit different from y'all's, but we each have a little bit of that, and we're taking that and moving forward. I wanted to share a little bit some of the cool things, and if you knew Charlotte, you knew her heart, you knew what her dream was to, you know, be like this awesome missionary, and she wanted to go to South Africa. I think Dawn and Shirley Reese said no, but she wanted to become this awesome missionary, and she wanted everybody to be able to see her heart and that she lived a life of Christ, and if she could win one person, she was delighted. Everything that happens, you know, God has a plan and a purpose. Took me a long time to figure that out, but did. I want to share a story, and I'm not real for sure I've ever shared this with my parents. I think I have my mom, but I don't think that I have my dad. I was in Fort Worth. All this to be said is I wanted to share that with you so you would know what is still going on today, that she's not here. We have around our place, there's a road that's called Charlotte Smelly Road. Some of y'all have said or made mention of that. And so all of that is to be a part of this. But probably, it's been probably 6 months ago, I was at a restaurant in Fort Worth, and busy restaurant, crowded, and you know, whenever you go in and you have to put your name on this list and you stand there for 45 minutes or an hour, what have you. While I was standing there, there was some other people and another couple that walked in, and he was introducing myself to his wife. Well, in that, there was a younger kid, I say kid, he was probably 23, 24, but he came up to me after they had introduced us, and he said, "Your name's Shirley Smelly, right?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "So what's your relationship with the Charlotte Smelly Road?" And I said, "Well, that's my sister, and that was named kind of after an accident." And he said, "Oh no, I know about that." He said, "Whenever I was younger, that I worked for this oil and gas company, and I used to take that road that loops from 1 street, which is 920, to 1885. And he said, I used to always go, Charlotte Smelly Road, you would name a street, Charlotte Smelly Road." And so he went back to his office, and he was talking about this road to the lady that was there in the office. And the lady in the office proceeded to tell him what had happened, that Charlotte was on a mission trip, and that you guys had gone and had been over there serving and restoring things for a week, and that she was hit and killed by a drunk driver. And he said, from that point on, it hit me. He said, I didn't ever want to drive drunk. I didn't really want to have any more alcohol. So that's a testimony of her legacy. And so we all have that. And I just wanted to share that story, because if you knew her, you would know that that was her heart. And cool stories are still going on, and she's not here, but her testimony lives on. Thank you again so much for sharing this day with us.
Y'all know that, talking about the drunk driver, it was because of this accident that George started that, one of the first, what is it called, George? SAD. Students for drunk driving. Remember SAD? I don't know if it's still as active here or not, but it was very active, and it was because of the accident that he started that, and it was a big deal. Do y'all remember SAD?
Yeah, like that.
I don't know if it's still going on. I don't know if other campuses have it or not.
I don't know.
But I don't know. You know, they it started. There was a group of ladies that started that MAD.
Yeah.
So George was a little sad. Students, you know, for drunk driving. Follow that up.
I think we can't thank Debbie and Adrian and Dave enough for doing this. Occasionally, maybe you've had that experience where someone gave you something for Christmas, and before you didn't know it existed, but after you got it, you thought, how could I have done without this? You know, an unexpected gift, but still something that you needed. And I feel that way about today. That didn't know I needed it, and now I think, oh, life would be poorer without this time with you, without this occasion. When we went on the mission trip, Charlotte was the lead car. Remember back then we had CBs, and George's name was Snickerdoodle, mine was Wombat. I've forgotten what Charlotte's was, but Charlotte was the lead car and I was the back car, and we were in touch through our CBs back in the day. And when we went on that mission trip, in some ways it felt like we had, well, I know we had more students than we had actual tools. So I felt like part of my calling that week as a staff member was to be helping students find something they could do that gave them a sense of purpose. So I was constantly handing tools away. And so what that meant was I spent a good bit of that mission trip in the parking lot there. And y'all remember when we used to have pull tabs on drinks? Yeah. Well, to protect the children, I was working pull tabs out of the dirt in the parking lot to have a purpose. And there were times that I was kind of looking at the Lord saying, you know, this is sweet, but is this, I don't really know that I'm serving much of a purpose here. But I just, you know, I was there and was going to make the most of it and love the people. And if there's people to love and things to do, there's plenty. There's plenty there. How much I did not know about how that trip would turn out. I had the privilege of staying in the bottom bunk across from where Charlotte was in the bottom bunk. Some people we miss our past with them because they were such a part of our lives. Charlotte and I were becoming friends. And so when she departed earlier than ever expected, I missed the future. Because there was just a good connection there. I was very fond of her. And we actually had some really unusual conversations on that trip that I'd be glad to share probably with the Smellies. I wrote this on my Palm Pilot. Charlotte was just enjoyable. And when I went on the trip, I loved stepping in behind her good leadership and just kind of drafting on her. I loved being under her leadership on that trip. The day of our return, I was in the very last car, so when I came over the little rise there, I just saw all these cars pulling off the road, and I thought, what are they doing? I thought it was a very poor example of driving. And, because I did not know yet. And then I saw Charlotte's car spinning. And then I parked the car, and I don't know why I did this, but I said to the people in my car, stay here. And then, as I was going toward the car, it was one of those times when one has an out-of-body experience. I kind of had this camera move up, and I could see me running towards the car. And there was the realization, and realization is a little bit different than a thought, that my life was about to change. And that at a deep level, I consented to that. I said, okay, this is what we're doing. When I got to the car, and there were all sorts of people being very helpful, I just went up to the window and thought it might be good for her to hear her name again and again. So I just stayed as present as I could, but I couldn't put a prayer together. I just didn't have what that took to get nouns and verbs. And I said to the Lord, Lord, I am sorry, I cannot pray. And he said, Sean, I've got that covered. And I looked up, and there were little clumps of students all around praying. That was a whole new experience for me of what it meant to be in the body of Christ. That you don't, it doesn't entirely depend on any one of us. And so I was so thankful that they could pray. Also, when I was there with her and treasuring her, I had grown up with Peter Pan as a hero. I used to dress up like Peter Pan for Saturday morning cartoons. And I wore my mom's vest, and I had a hat with a plume from Grand Canyon, and I would hop around on the furniture and live in Neverland. But one thing that I didn't realize, we don't realize where we get our ideas. But I remember when Tinkerbell was about to go the way of all fairies, and if you believed in fairies, you could clap your hands and she'd come alive. Well, somewhere in me, my inner child felt like if we wanted someone to live badly enough, they were going to live. And I realized, if death is coming, it will not stop for me. And I thought, oh my goodness, I had no idea. And I had no idea that I had no idea. And then I also realized, for some reason at that moment, there was a sense of my own sinfulness. And while there with this dear one, thought, where would we be if Jesus had not trumped both sin and death? Because I realized I couldn't really do anything about either of them. Because I'm in campus ministry, I frequently go to Beach Reach, which puts me on that same highway 77. And but now it's four lanes and divided. But I have been on that road on that day of the month and on that day of the week a couple of times. And I've thought of the little students in the van, people's precious children, and thought I can't even explain to them how I am communing with the Lord at this moment. I was reading this week about how the Lord never forgets anything. He never loses anything. There was a third one. Oh, and he never wastes anything. And that experience has not been forgotten, hasn't been lost, and hasn't been wasted. I'll give a special shout out. There were some students who went back to the hospital that day, and then we sent one car on home. But Debbie and Ben and then Becky, we were just a little family for those days. And we made crazy decisions, and we celebrated Adrian's birthday, and we had to ask that hospital policies becomes guidelines and not rules, so we could all go in there together. But it was a precious time, and if I ever have to fly in the face of great difficulty, I would gladly choose that posse of three again. There were things that happened after that, and just for my own healing, that summer I went to, I was really bothered by two-lane roads after that. I just didn't like them and didn't trust them. But I spent that summer on a very long road trip with a great Cynthia Clausen cassette. And I drove as many two-lane roads as I could between Waco up through northern Alabama to Atlanta and back, and just spent time with Jesus, healing from that part of it. We had no idea, but we were well accompanied, and that that God never leaves us or forsakes us is so important that it appears in the scriptures 3 times, in Deuteronomy and Joshua and Hebrews. He never leaves us or forsakes us. Fortunately, however difficult that was, it didn't fall between probably us and the Lord. It fell on the outside, so it kind of squished us into Him. At least that was my experience. I never felt like He had done something wrong. I did marvel that there would be rascals who would live, into their 90s, and that Charlotte and Mike, I was puzzled, but not disillusioned or nothing. There wasn't any way to say to the Lord that He had not done right by them. But it changed me, and the Lord was right. When I was running to the car, my life was about to change. I want to share this. It is by Thomas à Kempis, and it reminds me of that time period. He writes this: "Who can tell what a day may bring forth? Cause me, therefore, gracious God, to live every day as if it were to be my last, for I know not but that it may be such. Cause me to live now as I shall wish I had done when I come to die. Oh, grant that I may not die with any guilt on my conscience, or any known sin unrepented of, but that I may be found in Christ, who is my only Savior and Redeemer."
I can remember very clearly when Charlotte came to see me as our campus missionary, and me asking her, "Charlotte, can you work here at Baylor?" She said, "I don't know." I said, "I'm not going to ask you to sick the bears or anything like that. I just want to know, can you work here at Baylor and love our kids?" And she said, "I'll do that." And she did. She did it very well. Being an Aggie, I know it was hard on her, but she made the transition very well. Mike was a tremendous pianist. In fact, he played the piano for the BRH choir. When Cindy and I got married, BRH choir sang at our wedding, and Mike played the piano and accompanied them. And knowing Mike through that experience, and then hearing his testimony the night we were all sharing right before we left, and him telling us, "I feel like God's called me to South America, where I can use my Spanish skills," because he was excellent in Spanish, "to be a missionary." And I'll never forget that night, looking at Mike, he went up and hugging him and saying, "Hey, that's a great decision. I'll be praying for you about that. And I know you're going to make a difference in the lives of a lot of people." My perspective on the race is a little bit different than everybody else's. Even though I drove the lead car, Charles' car, down to the valley, that weekend was the weekend in which I was responsible for Welcome Week. And we were doing what we call MinCon selections. And as the director of Welcome Week, I needed to be a part of that experience. So I had flown back to Waco and was here in this room as we were making the decisions about MinCon leaders when I got the call. And one of the worst calls I ever had, one of the worst days I've ever had in ministry. I clearly remember having to call Mike's parents and telling him what happened. And what a traumatic, horrible scream came from his mother that day on the phone. never forget it. Never forget it. And Sean and Debbie and Ben going to the hospital, and then Hal leading the group back. And I drove down to San Antonio, and we had a big prayer time there that day before we came back. And then memorial services that took place, and the encouragement we got from the Baylor administration, and we're so supportive. And they came and stood by our side, men like David Slover and Jeter Baston, and folks who knew what we were going through and walked with us through it. It was just an amazing time. And I saw God work through so many different areas. And getting to know the Smellies, being in touch with him through the years has been such a blessing. And even though we haven't had the contact with Mike's parents like I'd like to have had, I know that after hearing Don's letter, that they in some ways have forgiven, because there was a little bit of blame there, quite honestly, placed on us that had to be worked through in their hearts and lives. And I understand that. As a parent, you would feel that way, I think, initially. But coming out of that, and Sean will remember this too, I changed my philosophy of travel, and we started taking buses. We didn't go in caravans anymore. We took buses and vans when we would go on trips. And I changed the way that I saw ministry, because of the impact that this trip had on my life. When I left the valley to fly to Waco, everything was in just, everything was happy. Everybody was happy. We had a great experience, a great time. A lot of fun each night, sharing. My team moved bricks. We were the best brick moving team you could ever imagine. We moved bricks. And we did that, and had a great time, amazing time doing that. And then to be able to have that kind of information given to you at a time that you couldn't even think about processing an accident like this was totally life-changing for me. So it was a time that 30 years ago, my life's been different since then. My ministry has taken on more of intentionality, because we have no guarantees, and we have no guarantees that there will be a tomorrow, but we can make the very best today we can make. I tell you what, Charlotte Smelly and Mike Lowry did just that. They make the very best days that they could have. It's good to see all of you. It's been a long time, and I'm glad that God allowed you to come here and be here today. It's been a blessing.
So this is a simple prayer. And should I feed you the words? Is that what you've done? It is in giving, is based on the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. The last part of that prayer. It is in giving that we receive. It is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born again to eternal life. That we are born to eternal life. Make me an instrument of your peace. light of the world inside. One more time. It is in giving that we receive. It is in guarding that we abide. It is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Make me an instrument of your peace. I want to know what it's like to follow you. When men look at me, I want them to see the light of the world inside. When men look at me, when men look at me, I want them to see the light of the world inside. Thanks, JJ. I've taken that song to the Northwest and taught it to my high school choirs. And we use that at every home spring and Christmas concert. And at the end of it, we used to do it at the end of the concert, and then I ask choir alums that are in attendance that night to come join us for that. And that is hands down the favorite part of every concert that we do. And it's been kind of fun to take that with me. I just want to say real quickly that if you look at the video, you see that that we stayed behind to take care of a traffic ticket that Gail got in a bizarre fashion. And the afternoon before that final get-together in Summation, we had made arrangements with Mike and Charlotte to ride back with them. And in the video, Gail explains that we're still struggling. Should we talk to a judge? We want to talk to the judge, or should we just pay it? And we decided to talk to the judge. We borrowed a truck. We borrowed somebody's truck. I can't remember who. The couple that you said in the 10-minute clip that they got married,
Debbie and John.
John, I think it might have been his truck.
And actually, there's another married couple too. Brian Warner and Tamara Hatton.
Oh.
They live in the San Antonio area.
But anyway, we borrowed his truck and told Mike and Charlie, well, we're staying behind, so we're gonna take care of this. And then to come up and see everything that happened, and it was just surreal. And even every time I think about it, it's just surreal. And for me, just real briefly, it made me realize if you need to say, you need, not if, but you need to tell the people around you love them, because you don't know about the next day. We're just not given the next day. And several things have happened in my life since then that reflect that. But tell them that you love them. I tell my classes, I teach junior high school choirs and guitar classes, oversee the worship teams, take care of audio and video stuff at our school. And it's a private Christian school. And the last thing I tell every one of my classes is love you, see you, miss you, bye. And then they're out the door. And love you because you're made in God's image, and whatever He has made, He loves because He's made it. I love it. I love you. See ya, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. If something happens and I don't see you again on this earth, I hope to see you in heaven. Miss you. When you're not here, every one of you brings something unique to this class. Everything, every one of you does. And when you're not here, when you don't bring your element, it's missed. I miss it. So love you, see you, miss you. You got to get to your next class, bye. So at the end of class, love you, see you, miss you, bye. And that's it. And that's one of the things that I think was cemented with this trip. And that's just weird. I was 31 when we left. I turned 61 next week. And I'm so glad for the video because there's so much I forgot. So much I forgot. I had no recollection at all of the memorial service we did here. Nothing at all. And to see it on the video was like, oh, I said I did that. You all right? Well, shoot, cool. Well, I'm glad I got that because nothing. So thank you again, girls and guys, for putting it all together. I know it was a mammoth work to do this, so thank you again.
We do thank y'all for entering into the story and the memories again with us and being here to tell your story of the last 30 years. And just the goodness of the Lord in the midst of this.